Good evening, Lincoln County community members, and thank you for joining us tonight for another presentation of our Lincoln County Wildfire Readiness presentations. Tonight, we will be featuring another one of our local fire districts and fire departments. We will have with us the Newport Rural Fire Protection District and the City of Newport Fire Department. They're actually together under Chief Rob Murphy, so he'll be joining us in a few minutes. So to get us started, we'll go through a few of our introductory slides. The presentation you are either live streaming, watching tonight, or perhaps you may be attending as one of our Zoom attendees, or you may be watching this video at a later time. So if you're one of the attendees tonight, you can drop any questions that you have in our chat box. If you're watching from our live stream video, you can email myself or Chief Murphy anytime, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. And if you're watching this video at a later time, then you can also email us and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So a little bit about this particular presentation. In prior years, we had a 2-hour presentation that we actually did in person, which we really do love to be able to be with you in person. But due to continuing COVID conditions, we were not able to provide in-person presentations this year. So what it actually did is challenge us to make our presentations more accessible to our whole community. So we took the 2-hour presentation and we broke it up into 6 individual modules. And then we provided an additional presentation that was specific to each of our fire districts here in Lincoln County. So tonight, again, we're featuring the Newport area. And after the presentation is done tonight, I will save the recording and I will load it up to our website so that you can click on the recording and then watch it anytime. Also in our presentation where we have graphics or content material that speaks to that particular slide, when you look at the presentation slide, you can actually click on those and it will take you to more information to help you with your planning efforts. And we know some of the slides that we look at tonight will be a little bit hard to read. And so when you look at those, when you do the presentation slides, not on the video, when you bring that up, they'll be very easy for you to see. And of course, you can click on them and it'll take it right to their live source. So we'll get going here. So first of all, we're going to watch our Lincoln County 2021 public service announcement. This was a public service announcement specifically about the wildfire season that was put together by our public information officers for Lincoln County. It is sponsored by your Lincoln County Fire Defense Board, which the chief for last season, for the prior term was Chief Robert Murphy, who's with us tonight, and then Chief Rob Dahlman is one of our alternate Fire Defense Board chiefs. Chief Rob Murphy has finished his term, and so Chief Brian Daniels from the Depot Bay Fire will be your incoming Fire Defense Board chief. And of course, your Lincoln County Sheriff Curtis Landers is also featured in this video. So give me just a second here, and I'm going to bring the video over so you can watch that, and then I'll mute myself and we'll get going.
Wildfire can and does happen here, and we all need to prepare for it. And that's probably the biggest thing to the public is be aware. Be aware, be prepared, know what happens around you, know what happens in the community. Listen to local radio, local media, sign up for Lincoln Alerts so that you have the most time, the best chance of getting early notification if we need to evacuate. I think something the general public, unless they've been through this, never really fully appreciates is how fast it spreads and how it can go from nothing to a firefighter or a sheriff's deputy knocking on your door saying, "Get out now." Sometimes, while we have a great system and we have the ready, set, go, sometimes it goes straight to go. I mean, that's just the reality because of how fast these fires spread. And so the time to start thinking about what do I do in a wildfire isn't when somebody's knocking on your door. That's probably the biggest lesson, I think. The time to start thinking about it, to start planning with your family, to know what you're going to do is really now. And that's why we're doing these messages, because we want people to think about this now, because in August, in September, you should already know what you're going to do.
Yeah, Lincoln Alert should be very much a priority in what they're preparing for their plans. It's a direct communication. We heard a lot of things. Communication wasn't good or wasn't acceptable during this last event, and we know that Lincoln Alerts is one of the things that continued to work and was providing information, timely information, to all the residents in the area. And one of the things that residents can do is make sure that their Lincoln Alerts is up to date, that they have their phone numbers in properly, that their cell phones are in there. If you want to know about a neighbor or family member around, you can put their address in, and there's lots of tools and things you can do to be alerted in the event of not just a wildfire, but any event, any emergency event that goes on. It's an excellent tool, and that's one of the first priorities citizens should do is have that all up to date.
So your personal preparedness is have a plan of what to do if you have to evacuate. And this can be applied not just to fire season, but also if we have other natural disasters that come on. Pay attention to what's going on, know when those alerts come out, be part of and subscribe to the Lincoln Alert system, and make sure that you have, if you were to walk into your house and say, I've got 5 minutes to grab my most essential items, what would I take? What would be important? If you're at a level 1 or a level 2 evacuation for a wildland fire, have those things already gathered up and in your car. Have your birth certificates, your important documents, your computers, anything that you say, I can't live without this. Have that stuff at the door ready to go or in your car ready to go.
I'm just really proud to be part of this community and part of the response that goes into it between the county, between the cities, the different fire districts. It goes all hand in hand, and it's a very collaborative approach to these disasters. And it's also because of, we're prepared well. Jenny Demaris, our county emergency manager, prepares us every year, prepares the community as we're doing here with information, but it's working together. That's the only way that we'll succeed, and we do very well at it.
Visit Lincoln County's website to view the 2021 Wildfire Readiness Presentation Schedule. These are live events that you can attend via Zoom and ask questions, or you can watch them live streamed on YouTube. There are 6 subject matter areas and 1 event per each fire district. So if you can't make it in person, rest assured we will archive these online for you to review. When you get to the website, just use the search tool or look for the text that says Wildfire Readiness Presentations. Thank you.
Okay, well, great to our public information officers for putting that together for us, and we'll move on to our next slide. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Our administrative brief and who our sponsors are, our seasonal outlook for both weather and drought, local fire district department briefing from Chief Murphy, and he's going to talk about what are burning restrictions, understanding wildfire weather warnings, what to do if, how to reach us, calling 911, and then I will talk a little bit about wildfire be ready tips. And then Oregon Department of Forestry normally joins us to talk about the regulated use restrictions, but they may not be with us tonight, but that's okay. Chief Murphy and I will be able to talk about their slides with no problem. And then we have additional resources that we're going to talk about to help you with your planning efforts, and then plenty of time to answer questions. So for that administrative brief, wildfire advocates. So who really is in our corner? So we know that most emergencies start with a call to our 911 dispatchers. They then activate our first responders, which are fire, EMS, and law enforcement. They assist us at the scene, do what they do, and then sometimes individuals are taken to our 2 area local hospitals, Samaritan Pacific Communities Hospital and Samaritan North Lincoln. And then when the event is over, our utilities and public works and road departments help us put everything back together the way it was before the event occurred. Our public health friends help us with communicable disease, just like they've been doing for this past year for COVID. They also help us with behavioral health needs and environmental health. Your elected officials are very important. They ensure that the needed resources for all of these agencies are available, especially if they're requested from state or federal offices. Your city, county, and tribal emergency operations centers then work with all of these partners and your elected officials to make sure the resources are available and arrive on time, and also to ensure that public information runs smoothly. So our sponsors for these presentations are your Lincoln County Fire Defense Board, which is made up of each of your fire districts here in Lincoln County and Oregon Department of Forestry. Also, our sponsors are Lincoln County Public Health, the American Red Cross, your local chapter, Oregon State University Extension Service, Oregon Coast Community College, their Small Business Administration, and Oregon Department of Financial Regulation, their Consumer and Business Services. And lastly, of course, your Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. So what is our objective? Well, if you've attended our Cascadia presentations, you'll notice that this objective is very familiar. Our goal for all hazards, and especially this season, is strengthening your knowledge of our local wildfire risk and your role in preparedness, response, and recovery. So next, we're going to take a little look at our seasonal outlook for both weather and drought. So here's something that's new. I didn't even realize that this was available to us until I started putting these presentations together for this year. So Oregon Department of Forestry actually has a seasonal climate forecast that they do every 3 months. So just as I said, if you click on the presentation slides and you click here, it'll take you directly to their Oregon Department of Forestry website where you can look at the most current forecasting video or look at prior ones. Also, our friends at the National Weather Service, the Portland office, they provide a summer outlook for Lincoln County specifically. Well, most likely it's probably for the entire coastline. But we use this information for public safety each May when we conduct our public safety and utility providers tabletop exercise. So we go through the entire process of what would happen if we had a fire in Lincoln County, and then we talk through and discuss all of those challenges and resources that would be needed. So also thinking about drought conditions, the U.S. Drought Monitor has a pretty up-to-date drought monitor status for the entire state of Oregon. It's live data. So again, you can click here and it will take you directly to that website, and then you can monitor it as frequently that you would like. So for an example, I have been taking snapshots of this drought monitor page throughout these presentations and then continuing to update it because the information has changed. So just this week, we took a snapshot on last Thursday, the 24th, and already right here in Lincoln County, it changed. Previously, the entire county was in the darker orange color, which indicated severe drought. But this particular week, it's actually now half and half. Oh, and look, Oregon Department of Forestry has joined us tonight. So Charlie, maybe you could talk a little bit more about our drought conditions and what does this really mean for fire season here in Lincoln County?
Well, we're quite a bit ahead of pace for fire season here in Lincoln County. I'm sorry I can't join with video tonight, but our conditions are so far ahead of schedule. It's like it's early August out there. And right now we're moving from moderate fire danger to high fire danger. So some things that were allowed today won't be allowed tomorrow.
Aha. Okay. So again, if you want to continue to monitor these drought conditions specifically, click on that link, bookmark it in your mobile device or your phone, and then you can monitor it as frequently as you would like. Okay, so next I'm going to introduce to you Chief Rob Murphy, your City of Newport Fire Department and the Newport Rural Fire Protection District Chief. So Chief Murphy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your agency, team, crew, and about who you are?
Sure. Thank you, Jenny. So I'm Rob Murphy. I'm the fire chief for the City of Newport Fire Department and Newport Rural Fire Protection District. And we provide fire and EMS and emergency response to the greater Newport area. We provide services not just to the City of Newport, but also beyond it. We go up to Gleneen Beach and the Spencer Creek Bridge. We go south down to almost to Ona Beach, and we go east out Highway 20 to about the bottom of Buford Hill, which is Fruitvale Road. And we are a combination fire department, which means that we have both staff, paid staff and volunteers. And we provide first response, fire, EMS, hazmat, rescue, wildfire, any wide variety of emergencies that we provide services for to a permanent population of about 12,500 and a transient or tourist population, sometimes up to 20, 25,000 people. So we are quite busy, and but we strive to provide the best service that we can to our guests and our residents, and that's what we're about. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so let's get you started on your briefing slides. And just let me know, Chief, when you're ready to go to the next slide. I'll be happy to do that for you.
So what are the current burning bans and restrictions? And this is a combination of both what we do locally as Newport Fire Department and Newport Rural Fire Protection District. And we do this in conjunction and in cooperation with the Oregon Department of Forestry and their restrictions, public use restrictions. So really for Newport Fire Department and Newport Rural Fire Protection District, currently backyard debris burning is closed. We close it every summer. And this summer, as both Jenny and Charlie had mentioned, with conditions being much drier than what we normally are used to, we had to close it early. And in fact, we closed backyard burning throughout the entire county on June 1st. So backyard debris burning is closed through the summer. It won't open back up until basically the fall rains, which is usually around the beginning of October. Currently, recreational fires are allowed in the city of Newport. They need to be in a approved fire ring. They need to be away from structures. They need to be away from combustible materials. They need to be watched. If conditions, as Charlie mentioned, our fire conditions continue to go up, we move to high fire danger tomorrow. If that moves to the extreme level, or we have red flag warnings, which we'll talk about here in a minute, we would likely have to close all burning and do a total burn ban. So back to you, Jenny.
Okay, let me just get you to your next slide here.
And again, you know, as was mentioned, our restrictions for Newport and Newport Rural Fire Protection District is recreational fires are currently allowed. Backyard debris burning is closed for the summer. Again, if conditions continue to dry out, if Oregon Department of Forestry moves to extreme fire danger, or we get red flag warnings, it would be likely that we would have to impose a total burn ban. So all fires would be closed. We'll put something out to the media. We'll make sure the message gets out to everyone so that's very clear that all burning is closed. Next. Okay. Fire weather. So, you know, typically in the summertime, we have reduced moisture, reduced precipitation, higher temperatures. Also, we have winds, usually typically in the afternoons, and we have lower relative humidities. We have seen this year happen much sooner. We've seen conditions become drier than normal, with very low precipitation levels, with higher than normal temperatures. And so we are seeing fuels dry out much quicker. As Charlie had mentioned earlier, that we are seeing conditions that we normally see in August, and we're seeing them right now at the end of June. And so that's concerning. Plus, you know, with the drought conditions that happen, that are occurring right now with low water levels, we are seeing increased risk of fire danger. And so, you know, we just need everybody to be cautious and everybody to be aware that things are not like they normally are. And, you know, with the conditions and what we've seen over the past number of years, we think this is a cycle that we are going to be in for a while, where we see drier than normal conditions. Next slide. Okay, so some terms to talk about for fire weather, and these are issued by the National Weather Service from NOAA out of the Portland office. And there's two terms. The first is what's known as a fire weather watch, and this is basically just to get everybody's attention that there's potentially dangerous fire conditions within the next 24 to 36 hours. Usually, it's a result of lower relative humidity, higher temperatures, and can also be combined with winds. As those conditions intensify, the National Weather Service moves to what's known as a red flag warning. And red flag warning is, just as it says on the screen, it is potentially dangerous fire conditions within the next 24 to 40 or 12 to 24 hours. And so you see low relative humidities. You see surface winds that are 20 miles an hour or greater, and you see low moisture levels. And we experienced this back in April, which is the earliest that we have seen a red flag warning in many, many years. And so with the way this summer has been going, I would not be surprised if we see some red flag warnings coming up this summer. And so we really take these seriously, and everyone needs to take these seriously. That the reason that these alerts come out is because the potential for wildfire spread just goes up so much. And they're usually associated with east wind events for us. And so if you see these, you really need to heed the warnings. And I would take that as a red flag warning as really like a level 1 evacuation, because that's really, really what it is. So, and as the next slide shows, it talks about that. Take action. Be very careful with open flames. Really consider whether you should have a barbecue, whether we should have a backyard burn. Don't be surprised if we shut down burning altogether. Have your plan in place for knowing what you need to take out if you had to evacuate. Have those plans in place from when we have those sorts of weather warnings. Next slide. And as I mentioned in the video that was played earlier, I think one of the things that people, unless they have experienced it, never really understand truly is the speed at which wildfire spreads. It is really shocking at how fast it moves. The folks who had to live through the Echo Mountain Complex fire last September experienced this in the Otis and Rose Lodge area, just how fast the fire moved through the Salmon River Valley. And as the diagram shows, if you are uphill of a fire, it's just that much faster. So next slide. So what to do? Obviously, if there's a fire, call 911. Know your address, know your landmarks, mile markers. If it's small and it's safe to do so, you can, and you have the tools, you can attempt to put it out. But if you're not sure, evacuate, get out, notify your neighbors if it's safe to do so, and evacuate the area. And know that, emergency equipment is going to be coming in to try and stop the spread of the fire. Next slide. So if you see smoke at a distance, this is where signing up for Lincoln Alerts is important. I know you're going to hear that a number of times, but it really is, because this is where you get these notifications of, if I see smoke in the distance, should I be worried about it? And this avoids people calling 911 and overloading the 911 system. You can call your local fire district or Oregon Department of Forestry and see if it is a prescribed burn. I can tell you that for now, prescribed burns are done for the summer. They don't have them going anymore. So if you see an unattended or unobserved fire, you can call the non-emergency number, and that will be given to you later in the presentation. Thank you. Next slide. Quick map of the fire districts of Lincoln County. There are 8 fire agencies for Lincoln County plus Oregon Department of Forestry, and they're color coded in the different areas. North Lincoln Fire and Rescue to the north, Depot Bay Fire District below that, Newport and Newport Rural Fire Protection District below that, then Sail Rock Fire District, Central Oregon Coast Fire and Rescue District that covers the Waldport Tidewater area, and Yachats Rural Fire Protection District to the south. And then to the east part of the county, you have Toledo Fire Department and East Lincoln County Fire District, and then Sluts Valley Fire District. And then the rest of the county is what we call unprotected. And what that means really is that there's no fire district, but it's covered by Oregon Department of Forestry. Next slide.
Thank you, Chief. So the next slide here, as Chief indicated, we do have a non-emergency phone number roster that you can use. Again, when you click on this, it will take you to the online link. And what we really encourage you to do is find the phone numbers that are for where you live, perhaps where you work, your employer area, the numbers that you may have a reason to call, bookmark those, put them in your cell phone, mobile phone contacts, print this off, put it next to the refrigerator for kiddos that are at home that might need to call. Also listed as Oregon Department of Forestry, Oregon Department of Transportation, Oregon State Police, Pacific West Ambulance, and also South Lincoln Ambulance. So you'll notice we have the non-emergency number to dispatch and then the regular business number. So also, we've had community members ask us, I'm not really sure when it's appropriate to call 911. I mean, I know if I'm having chest pain or there's a multi-vehicle crash or something, but what about those other areas? So the 3 dispatch centers and myself got together and we created this when to call 911. So this just kind of gives you an outline of when you should call 911, when you should use a non-emergency number, or some of those other issues, which really you should wait till regular business hours or locate that agency phone number. So again, another great resource for you to have to just kind of educate you when it's appropriate to call 911. So wildfire be ready tips. As we mentioned, we had 6 different modules that we've already completed. And one of those was specifically to emergency notifications and evacuations that we did with our Sheriff's Office Patrol Division. In that, we really go into depth about your Lincoln Alerts profile, but at a high level, we just want to make sure that each person in your household who has their own mobile phone really should have their own individual Lincoln Alerts profile. That way, everyone could be notified individually. You might be in the valley shopping and your significant other or your other family members at home, and if phone lines get tied up or something, we just want to make sure that each person is going to be notified individually. Also, we want you to know your evacuation levels. Across the state of Oregon, we have adopted the Ready, Set, Go program, and level 1, 2, and 3, no matter where you go in Oregon, is going to be the same. So level 1 means you need to be ready to evacuate, so getting things ready, getting ready to go. Level 2 means you need to be set. You need to be ready to get in the car and go. And then level 3 means when you receive that knock on the door or the phone call from Lincoln Alerts, when you get a level 3 evacuation, it means go now. It doesn't mean start packing the car. The car should already be packed. At any time during these, if you need assistance, level 1 and level 2, let's say you have access and functional need family members or livestock that you can't move, or perhaps you don't have a car and you don't have a way to transport yourself, then you're going to call the Lincoln County call center. At a level 3, probably not have time to call the call center. At a level 3, you're going to call 911 if you need assistance evacuating yourself or your family members. So again, that presentation that we did on emergency notifications and evacuations, we go into each one of those levels and really talk about it more in detail. So also we have this little your personal wildland fire action guide. It's a booklet where you can do a home assessment to see kind of how ready you are, a checklist of the things you need to take with you. Also, just as Chief Murphy indicated, early evacuation is the key for those with pets, animals, access and functional needs households. You may actually be evacuating at a level 2 and not waiting for a level 3. And also as the video indicates, depending on that fire behavior or conditions, you might start out at a level 1, but because fire has progressed or changed, you might go from a level 1 to a level 3. So again, early evacuation and being ready is very, very important. Comply with local warnings about evacuations. Don't wait until the last minute. And then lastly, don't underestimate how fast fire progresses. So public regulated use and restrictions. So Oregon Department of Forestry, Charlie, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Oregon Department of Forestry, our Toledo district here on the coast, and then we'll move the slides forward for you.
All right, well, I'm the Wildland Fire Supervisor for the Toledo unit of the Oregon Department of Forestry. We cover all of Lincoln County for private lands in the forest. We also take care of any fire issues on BLM land. And our public use restrictions are closely tied to our fire danger. As we stated earlier, we're moving from moderate to high overnight tonight. So as an example, chainsaw use was allowed until 1 p.m. under moderate fire danger. Now that we're going to high, it will be restricted to 8 p.m. through 10 a.m. And that's one of the escalating restrictions that we have as we go from low to moderate to high to extreme. So the example of extreme for chainsaw use would be no chainsaw use is allowed at all during extreme fire behavior or fire danger rating. So we change those based on our fuel conditions out in the forest. And so that's a fluid reminder to the public of what our current conditions are throughout the summer. So those change with our weather, but it's pretty abnormal for us to be in June and to be in high fire danger.
And then Charlie, this is just a page. If they were to go to your public fire restrictions page for Oregon Department of Forestry, go directly to Lincoln County. This is a snapshot that was taken earlier, but I think this will actually change, right? The color is going to change based on what your currently conditions are.
Yes, on this page on our Oregon Department of Forestry webpage, you can go there for public use fire restrictions, and you can click on any location in Oregon, and it will pop up what the current local restrictions are at that location.
And then this next page is the one that you were talking about that shows the different color levels, and they have a really good defined list of those activities.
Sure, like activities like using chainsaw use or mowing dry grass under low fire danger are allowed. Under moderate fire danger are allowed, but only until 1 p.m. And then during high fire danger, you're restricted to before 10 a.m. when things are the relative humidity is high and our temperatures are low during the morning. And then during extreme fire danger, all of those things are prohibited.
And so this basically stays the same year from year. So really, this is a sheet that you could print at home, especially if you live in the rural area. If you're a person that goes and cuts your own firewood, or you have activities that you're doing outside, keep this as a handy reference guide to remind you of what is or is not allowed. And then you can bookmark the Oregon Department of Forestry page so you know right away what those conditions are. And now also thinking about some of the other presentations that we did, Nancy Yule from the Oregon Department of Finance did a presentation on finance, insurance, liability, response, and recovery. And then there really becomes a liability. Isn't that right, Charlie? There's like a liability that's tied if you negligently do something outside of these restrictions or even accidentally.
Absolutely. In Oregon, if you use fire, start a fire, have a campfire, any of those use of fire type activities or cause a fire through negligence, you can be held liable for any damage that fire causes and also the suppression cost. So one of the big examples of that was Stouts Creek fire a few years ago. And that started from two different fires that grew together. And both fires were started from the same activity. It was mowing dry grass in the afternoon, and two different people sparked fires. They grew together and it became the Stouts Creek complex. And it took over a month and $38 million to put out. And eventually the two people were billed for that $38 million. So a tragic example of people going outside the rules and it having a great consequence.
And so then that was for the general public, but you also have industrial fire restrictions. So I'm assuming that's the timber companies, utility providers, anybody that's sort of working in that rural area?
Absolutely. Any logging crews or anybody conducting any type of operation in the forest has to adhere to our industrial fire restrictions. And those are a little bit different. We have 3 zones now in Lincoln County. And there's a strip along the coast, a strip in the middle of the county, and then the east end of the county. All have their own distinct fire characteristics. So we track those in 3 parts of the county now, and folks are responsible to pay attention to those. And now that we're going up to high fire danger, we're moving one of our zones to IFPL level 2, which will increase their fire watch requirement and shut them down at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about additional resources to help you with your planning efforts. All of our fire district chiefs and Charlie, all of our public safety agencies would comment on this. It's really preferred that our community members try to build their survival skills, or I refer to it as your toolbox of skills that you have for yourself, your family at home. First aid and CPR is always one of the best things you can do for sort of any emergency situation, especially if you might even live a little further out in the rural area where it takes longer for public safety to get to you. So there are first aid and CPR classes that you can get. A lot of times your employer will offer those. There are some contractors that are available in Lincoln County. If you join some public safety volunteer groups, then you can also generally try and get those during that time. So thinking about volunteering, helping your community, giving back, the American Red Cross provides 2 really critical services for our Lincoln County community members. During a structure fire or a house fire, and a family member or families are displaced because of that fire, the American Red Cross really steps in when contacted by your local fire district to provide those immediate services to that family that has nowhere to go after their home has been affected by the fire. So they may put them up in hotel rooms, they might provide personal hygiene, and even some cases they provide them with vouchers for meals and clothing, whatever they need to get them by until they're able to make contact with their friends or family, loved ones, or their insurance company. Also, the American Red Cross is our primary provider of sheltering services during any type of a disaster that we may have here in Lincoln County. We also have something that's referred to as a temporary evacuation point. So that's basically congregating at a parking lot to determine what the conditions are, and it buys us time for the Red Cross to get their team members in place, determine the best facility location. We have them already pre-designated, which will be the Red Cross shelter, and then get their team in there and get those shelter operations up and running, just as they did for Echo Mountain Fire. And they actually continued with those shelter operations all the way through until December, when then that was taken over by the state of Oregon Department of Health and Human Services. So another volunteer group new to Lincoln County, Medical Reserve Corps. So just like it states, medical, this is an opportunity for retirees or those that are still currently working in their profession as a medical person. Don't have to be a licensed doctor or nurse. You could be a phlebotomist, a retired pharmacist, any EMT, any of those folks that have that medical background that want to be on our Medical Reserve Corps team. We would love to have you. One of the primary focuses they will be during disasters, specifically for wildfire evacuations. They will assist with the medical fragile shelter operation. So we did that also in Echo Mountain Fire. We co-located with the Red Cross, and then they provided those services for about 4 days straight. CERT chapters of Lincoln County. There are 4 chapters here in Lincoln County. North Lincoln, Depot Bay, Newport Fire, they're all with their fire agencies, and then South County, which is sponsored by Central Coast Fire, but they incorporate from Seal Rock all the way down to Yahat. So they are the community emergency response teams. I think in the whole county, we probably have close to about 150. They were really there for us during COVID operations. You might remember them. They were doing the face covering distributions, helping deliver supplies. They've been helping at the vaccine clinics. They helped with Echo Mountain Fire with helping Red Cross set up the shelter. You do have to have training for that in advance, but if you check our website for any of these volunteer groups to get that information, you can find out when when they might be hosting the next course, or they may have virtual training that we've been able to do. And I actually skipped over my amateur radio operators, or ham radio operators. That's our Lincoln County Auxiliary Communication Service. Again, you do have to have your basic class done first. You can self-study. We offer the class a couple times, they offer the test a couple times a month. We also will offer a basic technician class that you can sign up for and then take that class and do some studying. It's not really as hard as you think. You got to remember a lot of details, but once you get that basic done, then we'll join you with a mentor to really help you learn how to use your radio, and then you'll become part of the Sheriff's Office, Lincoln County Auxiliary Communications. And then lastly, thinking about Map Your Neighborhood. It's a great way to engage with your neighbors. They could even be a neighbor that's, a quarter of a mile down the road, or 3 or 4 houses in a grouping. Really talking with your neighbors. What are their skills? What are their resources? You also identify which neighbors have vulnerability. So if you are thinking that your area may need to evacuate, you'll know that the neighbor 2 doors down, she doesn't have a car. She might need assistance. So just a good way for you to engage yourself with your neighbors to help with those preparedness planning efforts. We have a video, we have booklets, we have all the resources that you need if you choose to do the Map Your Neighborhood startup program. Okay, so other things, we've talked a little bit about Lincoln Alerts. That's a link to take you directly to it. We have a seasonal wildfire readiness information page where you probably found these presentations. And we have something that's sort of new. We have an active wildfires Lincoln County. So another idea to bookmark this in your mobile phone, your iPad at home. And we did have this last year, but honestly, we've all agreed it was kind of buried, a little bit hard to find. So now we have this page right up front and center on our county emergency management page. And once we have an active wildfire that affects a population, meaning we know they need to evacuate, then our county public information officers will move that to the very front of the county website. So it'll be easy to find, and we'll maintain it there throughout that activation. We'll, of course, put it on social media, send it out through Lincoln Alerts. And the goal being that if you are not affected by the fire, you would go to the website to get that information. But if you are affected by the fire, you're an evacuee, or you need to evacuate, then you could call the county call center for assistance. Current conditions. This is our website page where any live data that we get from a third party, like the National Weather Service, NOAA for tsunami warnings, USGS for earthquake information, ODOT for trip check, all of their links are on that page. When you go there, they're listed in the order that most people that are looking for. That's at the top. And then down below, we have them listed again, and they're in alphabetical order. We talked earlier about when to call 911 and public safety agency contact information, and then the 6 videos that we've already completed. So the first one was financial and business preparedness. So your personal financial, and Nancy again from Department of Financial Regulation really talks about pre-event, and then really focusing on your recovery. How do you recover financially when you're impacted by an emergency or disaster? Laura Ireland from the Animal Preparedness, talked about animal preparedness. She is our Director of Animal Services for the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. And she talked about livestock and domestic pets, and also pre-event, evacuation, and then also recovery. Then property protection by understanding wildfire risk. Oregon Department of Forestry joined me with that. They were the primary presenters with Aaron from the Oregon State University Extension Service. And that's where we really talked about what is defensible space? How much space do I need to have cleared? How high do I clear up the limbs on my trees? Those other risk factors about conditions and liability, again, things that Charlie talked about. Module 4 was emergency notifications and evacuations with your county emergency management and the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office Patrol Division. And then Mike Johnson was with us for sheltering with the American Red Cross. What should you bring to the shelter? What services are they going to provide? How long can you stay there? Are there requirements? And then medically fragile persons. How will they be sheltered? What should you bring? And just knowing what to expect when you get there. Our last module was air quality considerations. We have many community members that say, Jenny, I just want to know, is somebody doing the prescribed burning because it's going to affect me? Yep, there's a way that you can access that information so you know about it ahead of time, but also during times of wildfire when maybe the fire is a long ways away. We've had different circumstances where the smoke comes from Washington or as far away as California, and it does settle in here in our air area, and then it affects us. So what you can do to help limit the impact impacts to that smoke, wildfire smoke to yourself, how you can do air quality monitoring. And then the last half of that presentation was how do you plan and prepare for those members in your household who may have access and functional needs. That takes more challenges for you. You have more caregivers, you have more resources, you may have to take more things with you, special accommodations, and then how do you evacuate when you do get the level 3, it's time to go. So all of those have been completed. You can watch the video or you can click on the slides. Again, everything is intended to be a self-learning module. So, okay, the last part here, state of Oregon, lots of resources available for you. Oregon State University has been doing Wildfire Wednesdays for I think about 2 months. Their videos are all recorded, so you can click on those and look at them. And they have some similar things, but they probably go more into really thinking about your property, defensible space, what landscaping to plant. And I even helped them with a presentation about returning home, what to expect, how do you get back home, what should you expect if you've had damage to your home or property. Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office, Oregon Department of Forestry, Oregon Health Authority, Oregon Emergency Management. I have listed the state of California. You know, they really are a little bit more progressive on the public community education about wildfire response. We've all seen it play out on our national TV news stories. But I have great confidence that Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office and all of our other partners are really progressing forward that community message for Oregonians for preparing, responding, and recovering from wildfire. Federal and national partners, ready.gov for all hazards. The National Fire Protection Agency, they talk about FireWise Community, which is also something we can tie in with the Oregon Department of Forestry. Wildfire Community Preparedness Day, the Ready, Set, Go program, and of course, the American Red Cross. Whew, boy, that was a lot. Okay, so we're going to take a quick pause here to see if we have any questions in our chat box. And right now, so far, not any. So Chief Murphy and Charlie, how about we start with Chief Murphy? Any closing comments or anything like you would like to add? We're waiting to see if there's any questions.
You know, I just want to say that thank you for allowing this presentation so we could reach out to the community. And, you know, we just want to tell everyone that if you have questions, if you want to know what happens, we provide you a lot of resources. Please reach out. We'd be happy to answer any questions, provide information. We just want people to be prepared. And that if you're not quite sure, even after this presentation, by all means, reach out to us, call us, email us. Look on the websites and, you know, get yourself prepared and ready to go. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. And how about you, Charlie?
Yes, just it's not an average year. If ever there was a summer that an abundance of caution was warranted, this is the one. So just be awfully careful with anything involving fire as we move forward through the summer. Thanks.
Well, and my thanks to both of you. We still don't have any questions, so maybe that's a good sign. And we'll just conclude our presentation for tonight. We have one last presentation that will be back again tomorrow night with the Siletz Valley Fire District. So thank you all for joining us. We hope that this information was useful to you, and we'll close off for now.